This is another episode of the Godless Anti-Theist, presenting some godless truths so that you might be good and do good, for goodness sake. You know, when my daughter was young and she lived at home in grade school, we had some friends of hers that of course, they found out that I was an atheist, and they told their parents, of course. And so these friends who had been staying all night at our house, like, on Friday nights, stay over Friday night, Saturday, and maybe even Saturday night, or Saturday, most of Saturday, and went home on Saturday evening. Of course, when these parents found out that my wife and I were atheists, they said that it wasn't a good idea for their children to be around, especially me. And I met one of them out and about in one of the stores, and I said, that just shows you how weak your superstition is, that your children, who supposedly have the protection of the creator of the universe, and supposedly is walking with God, the creator of the universe, yet God and your child cannot handle being around an atheist. That's weak. And I said, anytime that your daughter wants to have my daughter over, she's welcome. My daughter is welcome to stay at your house. And I'm going to tell you why. Because my daughter is one of the most intelligent people I know. And this has been independently proven, by the way, because she would take tests and score very high, or even many tests she scored off the charts. That doesn't make her anything but well-read and have a good memory. And she was reading all the time, and she was reading books that, were pretty heavy. And I'll readily admit my daughter is smarter than I am. As far as intelligence, that takes you a long way, but it doesn't take you all the way. So I told this parent of one of my daughter's friends, I said, my daughter is free to stay all night at your house anytime. And you're free to say, we're going to church. You're free to talk to each other about church. I don't want you preaching to my daughter, but you don't have to not say anything about religion. I don't want you sitting my daughter down and telling her she better believe or she's going to hell. That's rude. And I wouldn't sit your daughter down and tell her she's stupid and ignorant and wrong for believing in God. As a matter of fact, when your daughter stays all night with my daughter, if they hang around together, I'm a parent. I'm not included. They're not including me in their activities. I'm doing grown-up things. They're up in my daughter's room or somewhere else in the house, or outside. If it's summertime in the springtime, they're outside. They're going uptown, or they are hanging out together. They're not hanging around with me. Although if I'm talking to my wife and we're talking about atheist things and they walk by, your daughter's going to hear it, of course. And your daughter did find out that I'm an atheist and did mention it to me that I'm an atheist. And I said, yes. And she asked me a few questions about atheism. Do you worship Satan? I said, no, Satan's a god. We don't worship gods. We don't believe in any gods. We don't worship anything. We don't worship science. We don't worship Albert Einstein. We don't worship Richard Dawkins. We're like a herd of cats. We're cats. We're like cats. You call our name, and if we don't want to mess with you, we don't come when we're called. We're not dogs. We are bred, and in the wild we have alpha male and alpha female that boss us around. We have no unquestionable authority. We even question the President of the United States of America. That's our right, being a natural-born human being, and we're supposed to be inquisitive. So I did answer a few of her questions that she asked me. I didn't sit her down and say, well, your parents are wrong about God, you're wrong about God, here's what you should think, and here's what you should believe, and here's what you should do on those beliefs. No. When this person's daughter found out that I was an atheist, she had a few questions. I answered them. She got up and she went back to my daughter, and they started hanging out together. And the next time she stayed all night and hung out with my daughter, there wasn't no mention of atheism or anything like that. They were hanging out doing their thing. If any of you parents out there know that when your child has people, other children over for an overnighter, they don't hang around with the parents. Now they may come down to the parents and say, hey, you want to make us some popcorn, or can we make some popcorn? Can we go to the show tonight? And ask for permission to do some stuff. But by and large, they're off on their own. They're not including us in that. Now, a couple of times when my daughter had guests over, we had what we call a weenie roast outside. We have a fire ring, and we put our wood in it and our leaves and other natural flammable things. And we had a campfire in our backyard. We own 3/4 of an acre, and the campfire's back almost to the end of the 3/4, so it's really far away from the house. And we have a fire ring because that's the law here in Indiana where we live. And so when the fire burnt down and there was just embers and a little flame, we had weenie roast, we had marshmallow roast, and we did hot dogs, and hamburgers, and I think we even did a couple pieces of ham, and we were just cooking over the campfire. And so we were in on that because we were supervising it. We were watching over it. Of course, when my daughter got old enough, then we our back window in our pantry looks out that way, and if they wanted to have their own thing going, we just told them, here, come get the hot dogs, the hamburgers, the ham, the marshmallows, and here's your sticks or your metal posts. And they went out and had their own weenie roast when they were older, and we kind of kept an eye on them, but we weren't involved in it that much. But when they were younger, we were there while they were roasting over the fire, as we kept an eye on things because they were too young to do it themselves. But when you're an atheist and you have children, your children are just like any other children. They're not preaching atheism to their friends, and their friends are Christian, and they're not preaching Christianity to each other. They're hanging out. They're doing kid stuff. This religion and politics, this is all adult stuff. And of course you can force your children to say, hey, when you get together with so-and-so, don't forget to pray, and don't forget to be very Christian, And don't forget to praise God every chance you get, so that maybe your friend will be lured into it. Now, there are some parents that do that, but most of them don't. And most children, I've been around teenagers for hours, and there's nothing coming up about religion. And mostly there's nothing coming up about politics. They talk about that stuff sometimes amongst themselves, but when you're younger, it's not coming up at all. And this was when my daughter was 7, 8, and 9 years old, that this person found out that I was an atheist, and wouldn't let their daughter overnight with my daughter. And my daughter stayed overnight with her, this child of theirs, this daughter of theirs, a few times, and then it just got to be where they didn't even allow their daughter to invite my daughter. And then my daughter was, of course, hurt because she found out that her friend was having other girls over, and not including her. And of course she inquired about it, and it was just simply that her parents didn't want a daughter of an atheist in their house. So this is the extent of their hate. This is the extent of their bigotry. This is their extent of their vile, sick, twisted character. Because a decent person doesn't blame the child for the parents' attitude. And yet, it's reasonable and understandable for me to know that they are persecuting my daughter and punishing their own daughter, because there was a couple of them that my daughter and their daughters were close, like sisters. My daughter was an only child, and these other children, female children, were like her sisters, best buds. And it really hurt that they were separated. And it hurt the Christian parents that said, no, you can't have that atheist's daughter over. It hurt their children too, because they really wanted my daughter to spend time with them. So they were punishing everybody. But that's completely understandable when the Bible calls for you to kill men, women, children, and babies of non-believers. It even calls for killing men, women, children, and babies of believers who don't believe everything you do. You know, Christians fighting Christians is a long history. And if you notice, you'll talk to a Christian, and he might say, we're very fundamentalist Christians. In other words, we're different than your average Christian, your ordinary, average, low-life Christian. We're fundamentalist. And as I mentioned before, I think in some podcasts, when I was 6, 7, and 8 years old myself, I would get invited to church, and I would say, sure, I'll go to your church. I'm an atheist, but I'll go to your church. And I'd go to that church, and everybody's nice to you, because they're trying to sweet talk you. They're trying to get you to attend their church. So they're very nice to you when you first go the first time. And what I like to pull on them, even at 7 and 8 years old, I'd say, well, you know, your church is a pretty good church. Oh, yes, our church teaches the Bible. We're very strict adherents to the Bible. We believe in the Bible. We believe Jesus Christ. All this bullshit, you know. And then I'd interject that I was going to next week go to the church down on the other corner. Oh, you don't want to go there. They don't preach the Bible. Well, you know, they showed me the Bible because I've been there once before. And they showed me the Bible, and they said they preach the Bible. Oh, they don't preach the Bible like we do. We preach it, and we take it more serious than they do. And, you know, we're closer to God than they are, and we're better church than they are. And la, 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 la. You know, they don't want you to go to that church down there. They want you to go to their church so they can get you and you donate to their church. Then you grow up and you get married in their church, and you as a couple donate to the church. And then when you have your children, you bring them to their church, and their children grow up, donate to the church when they start working, and then they get married, and that couple donates to the church, and then their children are forced to go to that church, and then they grow up and donate to the church. It's all about money. And if they can grab you and keep you, then they have you, and hopefully have you for generation after generation, and their church makes more and more money. That's why they want you to have a lot of children, because your children means more children. And if you're a product of a 2-child family, and they talk you into having 5 children, and then they talk your children into have 5 children, well, you can see how that multiplies out. And as all these children start donating to the church is raking in a lot of money. Certainly, if they are not going to talk you into having just 1 child, because they're going to bring in less money from that child. They're farming you. So, I started telling them I'm going to check out this other church. And so I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll come back next week. And I came back next week, and when it was kind of clear that I hadn't adopted their church, about halfway through the service, or about halfway through talking to them for the night, I started getting the cold shoulder, And then I got the threats, if you don't straighten up, you're going to hell, and all this burning hell, and they described it very vividly. And it was just so amusing, because now that they think, well, he's not going to become a member of our church, we're not smiling at him all the time anymore. And it's like a guy wooing a woman, she don't go for it, so he says, okay, fine, I'm moving on to the next one. And he starts talking to her just like she's just someone he knows, not someone he's wooing. He doesn't bring her flowers anymore. He doesn't call her up and see how she's doing. He doesn't tell her how beautiful she is anymore, because he didn't get what he wanted out of her, so he's moving on to the next girl. And that's what they did to me. It was obvious I wasn't going to probably wasn't going to be a member of their church. That I was going to look at other churches, and then it was just, well, we got other people to woo into our church and be nice to all the time, and I wasn't a possible convert, perhaps, so I started getting the cold shoulder. And the friend who was a member of that church, who was calling me and, how you doing, and dropping by my house and talking to me and being my friend, suddenly, slowly but surely, he stopped calling, he stopped coming over, and eventually I never saw him again. And that was fine, quite fine with me, because he was only coming over, and I knew why he was coming over. You're 7, you're 8 years old, a lot of 7 and 8 year olds, maybe even most 7 and 8 year olds, they know what's going on. Now, of course, they're raised by parents who want them to pretend like they don't know what's going on, and they get in trouble because they're so busy pretending they're ignorant that they become ignorant. They become willfully ignorant. But if you let your child grow up naturally, most children, by the time they're 7, 8, 9 years old, they got it down. They get hit by puberty, 12, 13 years old, and they might not know what that throws them for a loop for a little bit, but they end up learning what that's all about, for sure. They learn why they started getting these feelings for the opposite sex or the same sex. You get a certain age, you start getting these sexual feelings, and at first it throws you for a loop. Why am I feeling this way? And then, of course, you've got your mother and father, you know that dad is attracted to mom, so you think, well, this must be what this is about. I'm a male, I'm attracted to a woman. And you really get confused if you're a man attracted to other men. What's this all about? So that's why they try to promote homosexuality in the public sphere, so these children that are having feelings that most people don't have can understand it and not be confused by it and not think that they're really different. They're not different. Totally different. They're just different in this who they are attracted to. But basically they're just human beings. So here you have these Christians and loving and love your enemy and turn the other cheek, which is all bullshit. And they rejected my daughter simply because I'm an atheist. They don't want their daughter, child, exposed to the atheist family. And they definitely don't want to come to my house, send their daughters and to my house to overnight to stay with my daughter over the weekend and see that, this atheist family is just like my family. And even at sometimes, hey, this atheist man and this atheist woman, they love their daughter really, really awesome. And they love each other. It's awesome. It's a loving family. They love each other. They love their daughter. They love their life. And the threat of hell and the knowledge that they're not going to live forever doesn't affect their happiness. They are happy people. And, oh my goodness, Christians don't want their children to realize you can be happy and be atheistic. So there's all kinds of reasons, but the main reason, of course, is Christians hate this world. And they don't want their children developing a love of this world at all. They're indoctrinated with, yeah, you love your friends, yeah, you love your mom and dad, yeah, you love your brothers and sisters, but if God tells you to kill your dad, kill your mom, kill your sister, kill your brother, kill your neighbor, kill the stranger walking down the street, kill your co-workers, then that's what you're going to goddamn do. That's what you're fucking going to do. You better do it. And then say when their child actually does it, oh, I don't know why. I don't know why they thought they could do that. So that's why I'm always saying, be careful out there. And take this godless truth. Think about it. And hopefully you'll see the opportunities to be good. For goodness sake. Later.